I'm gonna let y'all come up in here. Come on in here, y'all. We back. Come on back in here. Come on back in here, y'all. I don't know what the fuck happened. Come on in here, chat. Come on in here. If you're watching the replay, I set everything up on the first part. It went for like 15 minutes, and then it cut out. So if you're watching this part two, what's up, human? You back? Yeah. Come on in here. We back. And head on over today to Reparations and Relaxation with Camila Moore, Danae, Tiffany. It's going to be today in Compton. The link is in the description for today's event. The link is in the description. So, quick setup for those of you watching later on who didn't watch the first part. Talking about black generational wealth, and I was using my family as an example. So I'm gonna let a few more of you come on in here. Cause we had like 200 in this motherfucker. Then it just started doing all kind of bullshit. Thank you, human, for typing in that event. Max, appreciate y'all. Shayla, Eddie Kane, Kid Frankie. So back to what we were talking about, generational wealth. Salute to Felix Speaks. I be cussing Felix Speaks out sometimes, but Felix Speaks be right back up in here. I fucks with you, Felix Speaks, because I be cussing people out. I'm just like my grandfather when it comes to that. My grandfather loved the hell out you, but he will cuss you the fuck out. I learned from my grandfather. Even people you got love for, you can cuss out. But I fucks with people who don't take it personal, because I don't take it personal. When people say some shit, when people say certain things to me that I disagree with, and they say some shit, I don't take it personal. But I be forgetting that everybody's not like that. You know, some people really do take that shit personal. But I can see Felix Speaks don't take it personal, so salute to you, brother. Because I be cussing that nigga out sometimes. What's up, FBA Shanae, mister? Sinister, salute. So let's get back to it, the generational wealth talk. I have to sit back and listen to people like Boyce Watkins talk about we black folks are our own worst enemy, and the reason why we don't have generational wealth is because we spend too much money at Starbucks. Instead of putting that Starbucks money in our stocks, we could have generational wealth. If we just don't buy, like you ever, my whole life, I know those people, you know, I got great chin hairs now, but I was a kid when they came out. My whole life I've been hearing, well, if black folks just stop buying Jordans. Press number one if you heard that stupid ass Jordan argument. If black folks would get generational wealth if they just stop buying Jordans. A $200 pair of shoes. They're saying if I got five $200 shoes, five pair of $200 shoes, that's $1,000. If I didn't buy them 5 pair of $200 shoes, they telling me I would have had generational wealth. Get the fuck out of here. So let's go into it. Participant vote, subscribers only. So let's go into the Hoggett side of my family. I found out through a family, through my cousin, that my great granddad, his invention of the automatic railroad, that patent that's used worldwide now to trip when those arms go down, he was never compensated for it.
Good morning.
Hello. He was my great grandfather was never compensated for that invention. Can you imagine how much money my family would have had my great grandfather been compensated? The newspaper said that my great grandfather sold the patent. I'm finding out now through family that he never sold the patent. It was taken from him. But he died before my mother was born, so she never met him. And my mom's mom died when she was only a month old. My mom's mom was only 1 month old when she died. And so my mom was raised by her father's side of the family, and her father's side of the family had no connection to the invention. Hell, I don't even think they knew he invented it. But her mother, that connection's on her mother's side. That connection is on her mother's side. And so my whole life, I knew my great-grandfather invented that, but my mom had to work her whole life. My mom used to work 7 days a week during tax season. She had her normal 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but January through April 15th, my mom worked Saturday and Sunday as an assistant to the tax man. I gotta listen to jackasses say black folks don't have a generational wealth because we buy Jordans. And I didn't buy my first pair of Jordans until I was 31. Yet my great granddaddy invented something that we should still be getting paid on to this day. And we never saw it, my family never saw a dime of that. My aunt Flap died without seeing a dime of that. Her children, my cousins, my first cousins, are still alive, except for her oldest son, Sean. He's gone. And they never touched that. How? Because there's a system in place that every time black people create something, invent something, do something big, something great, there's a system in place that steals from them. And the system is already set up. The system has been running for a few hundred years now. By the time they stole my great granddaddy's invention, they had already stole the light bulb. They had already stole ice cream. They had already stole potato chips. They had already stole the real McCoy on the train. They had already stole the train interlocking system. They had already stolen all these other things. So by the time my great granddaddy got his patent 100 years ago in 1925, there was a system that had already been in place for a few hundred years that was ready to take his shit without blinking an eye. When you look at the people who are able to pass down generational wealth, it's only a handful. Generational wealth is a myth for the most part. Outside of the oligarchs and a few people, most people, even very rich, I read an article in the Wall Street Journal a few years ago. There's like, by the second generation, no matter how much money the granddad accumulated, by that second and third generation is gone. Because it was split amongst kids, and then it was split amongst their kids. And the way our tax code and our tax system works, especially with the newer laws that they have on the books now, those newer laws that they have as far as the estate taxes, generational wealth is a figment of most of our imaginations. It's just something that people like Boyce sell you to go take his class. You could definitely build generation. You could definitely build wealth for yourself, and you could build enough wealth for your immediate children. But that shit ain't going to your grandkids. It's not. Great point, DeAndre Mosley. He said when Kamala Harris stole Nina Simone's estate, Nina Simone had a trust set up for her daughter, and her daughter made one mistake, and instead of the state of California giving her a fine and penalizing her, then allowing her to move on, they literally stole her estate and gave it to some white folks. That's what Kamala Harris did. Carl for president, it's not that people have zero unity for future thought. It's that people have immediate needs. That's why land gets split. Land gets split because people have immediate needs. You have a group of people who have immediate needs. It sounds good to keep a piece of land between 4 brothers and sisters, and each of them getting 25% of it. That sounds good, but in practice, those 4 kids have 2 or 3 kids of their own. They have works, they have careers, and their careers won't even allow them to manage said land. So people got to make business decisions. And on top of that, sometimes granddaddy didn't take care of the property, didn't take care of the land. And the amount it's going to cost to fix that particular land up and fix that building up, it's going to be too expensive for them to hold on to it, so they got to sell it. And that's not just black people. This is an American issue. Here's how you check that. All them white folks that got that home, white people got 160 acres of free land because of the Homestead Act. Them motherfuckers don't still own 160 acres each. It got split. And by the time you got to the 1950s, 1960s, most of that Homestead Act land that white folks got in the 1860s was gone. Our system isn't, the taxes and the way it's set up, it's not even set up unless you're wealthy, unless you're dealing with extremely deep pockets that you could just sit on things, which 99% of Americans don't have, white, black, whatever race, 99% of Americans don't have that kind of wealth. They should get split up too. That's just how the American tax code works. The American system works for us to be debtor slaves, all of us. Unless you're a wealthy white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, the rest of us are debt slaves. I don't care what your race is. Now, some might be debt slaves in a better neighborhood and drive a better car than the debt slaves in the ghetto, but everybody's debt slaves. Don't let nobody say, trick that we as black folks are uniquely different. Everybody's debt slaves. There's no if you did this, if you did that, because there's no such thing as perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. We're all human. And some people, a handful, 2 or 3%, are going to do extraordinarily amazing with it. Another handful, 4 or 5%, 10%, is going to totally fuck it off. The other 85% is going to be somewhere in the middle. And that's across all races. So we cannot use the 2 or 3% exception and say, well, if we were all the 2 or 3% exception, that's how it'd be. Impossible. You have the bell curve, and you have those outside of the standard deviations of the bell curve. They teach you in statistics you could never use what's outside of the standard deviation within the bell curve, positive or negative, as the example. It's impossible. Human beings were not created to be perfect. Human beings were created to be flawed, that goes through their own trials and tribulations. There is no being the perfect debt slave. That doesn't exist. So what we're talking about here, and to give you an example, Yorba Linda, California. I don't know if it's still like that, but look up Yorba Linda, California. I remember about 10 years ago, I read a report. For years, Yorba Linda, California was a city that had the most debt in California. Yorba Linda is white and Asian. It ain't no niggas that live there. But that city had a higher debt to income ratio than Inglewood, California, than Compton. Big ass houses, fancy cars, and extreme debt. So back to what we talking about. So we don't have the generational wealth because there's a system in place flat out that all but guarantees that. And that's why, like Neely Fuller said, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, we focus on the dismantling the system and coming back, thwarting it's the system. I just gave you one example of one bloodline that lost out on generational wealth. My great-granddad's invention of the automatic railroad crossing. Want me to go a little bit deeper? His granddad, not his great-granddad, Mr. Alfred Hoggett, his granddad, Nathaniel Hoggett, was a slave in Mississippi, Natchez, Mississippi. In the year 1855, their great-granddad was to leave the plantation to his slave children. He had a few plantations. One of the plantations was to be left to the slaves, to a few of them. And my great-great-great-granddad was one of those slaves. My great-grandfather, the person who invented the automatic railroad crossing, was the grandson of the man that was supposed to be left that plantation. Mind you, this is Natchez, Mississippi in 1855. Natchez was one of the wealthiest cities in America. You had Philadelphia, New York, Boston. Of course, those were wealthy, but it's in the South, and Natchez was up there behind the major cities, Natchez, Mississippi. And so Natchez, Mississippi controlled the trade routes up and down the Mississippi River. That's where all your cotton went through. It was a major trade hub. So owning a plantation in Natchez, Mississippi in 1855, that's like owning a house in Beverly Hills now. That's like owning a house on Star Island. That's like owning a penthouse condo in Manhattan. That's how precious that real estate was. The governor of Mississippi stepped in 1855 and said, due to events unforeseen, the state of Mississippi cannot allow slaves to own this land. The governor, after the slave master left it in the will that he's to take over that plantation and own it. Hey, Red. So that right there, that's just 2 times my family had a chance to own generational wealth. That's twice. His grandson turned around and So wealth was stolen when he wasn't allowed to own his plantation. And then wealth was stolen, his grandson's wealth was stolen when his patent and invention was stolen. I just gave you 2 examples from one bloodline. That's how it knocked out of generational wealth. It's a system. And Mr. Alfred Hoggett, my great-granddad, he married Marguerite Roberts. And the Roberts family, Marguerite, her brother was the first black senator in Illinois state history. Her other brother was the first black doctor over the state of Indiana Medical Board. And his obituary was written by none other than Dr. Charles Drew, 3 months before Dr. Charles Drew died. My great-great-granduncle was a mentor to Dr. Charles Drew. That's who Alfred Hoggett, the person who invented the automatic railroad crossing, that's who he married. And that family bloodline had over 900 acres of land in Indiana. That first off, they had to leave land in Virginia behind in 1835. Land that family had been on record since the 1660s. They had to leave it behind in 1835 because after Nat Turner's revolt, black people Negroes couldn't own land down in Virginia and North Carolina. They changed the laws. They pushed us out after Nat Turner. Moved to Indiana and purchased 900 acres of land. And during and after Reconstruction, America came up against black businesses, black farmers, black agriculturists, black businesses. And so people who own land like my family who was never enslaved, they ended up in the same pot as those who were enslaved because they had to give up most of their land because there was a system in place that made sure that they couldn't make profits anymore because they were Negroes. That's why we don't have black generational wealth. My cousin Michael, if you ever drive down, he's a descendant. He's also in this bloodline. My cousin Michael, I had a bunch of eye doctors that was family. And my cousin Michael died at the age of 40. By the age of 40, he had 8 eyeglass shops. But he never could open up an eyeglass shop in LA because LA didn't want black eye doctors in the 80s and the 90s. So he was a black eye doctor and he wasn't allowed to open up eyeglass shops in LA. He had to go way the fuck out to like Pomona and shit to open up an eyeglass shop in Azusa, Monrovia, Claremont. These are the microaggressions that black businesses face. When he finally got approved to open up an eyeglass shop in LA, it was after the LA riots. LA riots happened. Don't ever let anybody tell you the LA riots was a bad thing. It was a great thing for LA. The riots happened, then they said, okay, we can do black businesses. And so they finally started allowing black businesses that weren't liquor stores to come back in LA. And if you ever drive down, if I was on my computer, I'll show you. I showed y'all before on the show. But if you go to Google Maps now and pull up the corner of 83rd and Vermont, there is a building on the corner that's catty corner. The entrance is facing the intersection. It is on the northwest corner of 83rd and Vermont. That's the building my cousin Michael designed. And they finally allowed him to open up an eyeglass shop. Only problem is he died a month before it opened. My last day I saw my cousin Michael was the same day Tupac got shot. I'll never forget because we had a family barbecue. And we were all talking about the Tyson fight. Who was going to win? Is Tyson going to win? Tyson, Bruce Seldon. We were there and we were talking about, and then we saw the fight. We had a fight party. And That was the night Mike Tyson got shot. Now, also the last night that I saw my cousin Michael. He died the next day and never got to see his eyeglass shop open. I'm talking to, when we talk about reparations, all right, man, when we talk about reparations, this is what we talking about. See, these people talking about something, I'm not sitting around waiting on reparations. My family ain't waiting on shit. And at the end of the day, I ain't waiting on nothing. I'm doing pretty good for myself. I ain't poor. I'm able to live in LA and I ain't gentrified about this place. Go to great concerts, eat at great restaurants, travel. I ain't desperate for shit. Got a bunch of apartment buildings that I run. I'm not sitting around, I'm not in the po house by a long stretch. But at the same time, why do I have to have 4 businesses to make a living? Why do I have to have a property management company? Why do I have to also do my racism corporate trainings, do my YouTube, do my stand-up, write books, make documentary? Why I gotta hustle so hard when I had immediate family that changed the world? Make no mistake about it, that invention, that trip to let the signal know that a train is coming, that system is used worldwide. It's using the Chinese train systems, the Japanese train systems, the European train systems, the African train systems, the American train systems. That invention is used on all 4 corners of the planet. What if my family got to touch 1/1000th of the money that thing generated? What if my family got let's see, what if we got a basis point off that? Just 1/10 of 1%. What if we just got a damn basis point? 1/10 of 1%. Think about that. And an invention that was patented 100 years ago this week, July 17, 1925. It's something that's still used today. Because it wouldn't have just been, it's something that they literally still use today. So that would be true generational wealth, because it wouldn't have been a one-time payout. It would be, let me get 1/10 of 1% of every time this patent is used in the rail system across the world. Because guess what? And this just hit me. This is a fresh start in my mind. This just hit me. The cold part about it is there's somebody out there who is getting more than 1/10 of 1% every time this thing is used. That's the crazy part about it. I'm over here asking, what would it be like if I got a percentage of my great-grandfather's invention, when right now there is somebody out there that's profiting off my great-grandfather's invention? The way, like, it's not like that money is gone off into the ethers. It's not like that money's somewhere on planet Pluto or on Neptune. There is a family living right now who's getting what I'm saying, and most likely more. That money's being processed now. This is why they don't want us to wake up as to who we are, black people. How many of y'all have a similar story in your family? Most black people in here, from Baltimore Bully to Felix Speaks to Brian Barnes and anybody else listening, there's somebody in your family, cousin, uncle, great uncle, great granddad, that did something to change how the world works. All y'all got them in your family. Going back to Boy Swaggers and Dr. Umar, this is why these folks always got to tell you African. Because I tell you this, and I was at one time a big fan of both, but I tell y'all this thing, when I was African, I didn't know none of this family history I'm talking to y'all about right now. Check. I knew my great-grandfather invented the automatic railroad crossing, but I didn't know nothing else. I was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. I'm African. There's a why to everything that I do. Everything that I'm saying everything I do, everything that I talk about on this, not everything that I do, because shit, I do a lot of mindless shit. We all do some mindless shit. I'm not no fucking guru. I do plenty of mindless shit. But when it comes to this show here, I'm very calculated on what I talk about and why I talk about what I talk about. Every show is not geared towards getting the biggest SEO ranking, and you know, every show is not geared towards that. Some shows just passing along information to put something out there in the consciousness. But as long as you're focused on you're African, you're not going to take a forensic analysis of who you are here. Rainbow, I don't know about free access. If let's be very clear. In America, if you really want something, you're gonna have to pay for it. Free access to get you so far, but it's always gonna come to a point you gotta pay. I gladly pay for my ancestry. I put in all the obituaries that I collected over the years, and my family tree branch started extending. Then I met some family in person. Nigga, we got the same eyebrows. I thought I was the only one. At some point, you're gonna have to pay. Like, it's slowed down since the pandemic, but Dr. Randy Short's a great resource. Dr. Randy Short knows how to go into the archives and find different things into the National Archives. But since the pandemic, it's slowed down his access. But he may hit up Dr. Randy Short. Sometimes he may still do it, but you're gonna have to pay him. Dr. Randy Short knows how to go into those archives and get information for you. Yeah, Futopia, you say your grandparents own some stuff? Yeah. All of us got family. What about all the businesses that black people had to leave behind during the 18 and 1900s, or would get lynched. It was usually business owners that got lynched. People who owned the general store, the black folks who owned the bus lines, the black folks who owned the horse and buggy line, taxis, whatever. The blacks who own land, the blacks who Mount Bayou, cities like that, cities like Allensworth here in California, from coast to coast. Like the man who established Allensworth was killed on a trip to Monrovia, California in 1908. The people who run these towns end up dead. The business owners who would run out of town. How many black business owners had to, in the middle of the night, leave the South because some white folks accosted them and he shot and killed them and had to go? Yeah, Wilmington, 1898. Red Summer, 1919. Just look up Red Summer. Look up the Roaring 20s and what's going on in the after World War I here in America in black towns. As long as you African, you're not gonna look at these stories. And now you turn on the news, they want us to be sympathetic because some people who came here illegally are getting sent back home. You got a free plane ticket. What are you talking about? We got kicked out of home and sent to cities and had to restart our life after creating so-called generational wealth. You said granddaddy slice and dice, Whitey, and ran for my family. And this is something I learned from Dr. Randy Short. Do you know the reason why black folks have nicknames? Uncle Peanut, Pee Wee. It's because we understood that we'd have to defend ourselves against white aggression at some point. And if a black man killed a white man, when the police came to town, when the authorities come to town, they're looking for William Johnson. And they're gonna go right to the kids and ask, do you know where William Johnson is? And the kids don't know who the fuck William Johnson is. They know Uncle Peanut. They know Cousin Peanut. That's his name, Peanut. My uncle from Overton, Texas, his name was Uncle Son. I didn't know his name was Leroy until I saw his obituary. I didn't know his name was Leroy Poteet until I saw his obituary. He was Uncle Son. Because my great-great-grandmama had a son at the age of 15. She was born in 1900. She had him in 1915. And then had the rest of her kids when she got married at 25. So he was like 10 years older than her oldest kid. So they would call him Uncle Son. But we did not learn the adults' names because at some point, somebody might need to get down. And when they get down, there was a system that would get them to the next city over, the next state up. You know, we got family in Richmond, you know. You down in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. But you know, y'all got family, y'all got people in Richmond. So if Uncle Skinner got a Skinner white boy, he's gonna go in the middle of the night to Richmond, Virginia. And the police are gonna come looking for William Johnson. What's up, Dana? And nobody's going to know who William Johnson is. Y'all see how strong our system is? Y'all see how hard we fight back? That's our culture. But if you're African, you never take time to investigate this. You're too busy trying to learn Yoruba. I don't have any issues with Africans, and I respect all traditions. And I respect traditions to the point to where I'm not going to act like I'm your tradition. Even if I do have a distant connection, you know, I'm not going to sit here and intrude on your immediate connection. I have a separate system that taught me how to get through this land. And whatever traditions I may have had in Africa, if I was there at some point, those traditions did not help me survive this land. It's the traditions that we developed on this land that helped me survive this land. Remember, there's always a why. That's what I'm talking about here. Oh, my neighbor has a fucking annoying voice. Oh my God. Like I hear her talking and just like, that's how it sounds. Gosh, lady. She sounds like that annoying substitute math teacher. Like, oh, I don't want to go to Miss Smith class. Sure. Every time I hear her voice, I hear somebody saying, she sounded like the lady that gave out the SAT test. Y'all remember y'all used to get them tests in high school? Remember the voice? Now what you gonna do, you're gonna go to sample A. And in sample A, you're gonna mark with a number 2 pencil. And you're gonna fill it in completely. If you erase it completely. And mark it down in the right spot. Get your standardized test having ass voice out of here. I'm just playing. I got dope ass tenants. I really do. I ain't got no complaints in my tenants. Now my neighbors, most of my neighbors are good except one. Anyway, y'all heard the voice? Y'all heard it? Make sure they ain't behind me looking. I've been talking shit. Oh yeah, cool, they ain't out there. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. And this is, again, no disrespect to Pan-Africanism, but everybody has a similar story. I'm not unique. I refuse to believe I'm unique because we've done so much to impact this country. Like Fudopedia, she had family that owned hotels. Think about all the time your family got driven out of a city once they established something great. Think about that. In driver's ed class, driver's ed was fun. And don't forget to hit the like. But let's go to another way they minimize our wealth. He said, don't worry about the neighbor, look out for the skunk. The skunk don't come out in the daytime. I'm good. Now tonight, I'm gonna have to be on my feet tonight. But they don't come out, the skunks don't come out in the day. Them motherfuckers asleep. But let's talk about another way that they thwart our wealth through sports and entertainment. Sports and entertainment are two areas that we have major impact. Let's first go into sports. Let me break this down for y'all. Y'all ready for the breakdown? As most of you know, my longtime followers know that I have a very deep sports background, although I don't look like it anymore. Hell, I never did, nigga. I was 320 pounds dunking, nigga. 6'2", 320. Ugh. Not no more. That's why I ended up having knee surgery and couldn't play basketball no more. The problem wasn't jumping up that high. The problem was landing from that high. Appreciate the Cash App, Courtney G. But I've been around the NBA environment for a long time. As a matter of fact, I hollered at Olden Polynice yesterday. Told him I thanked him for defending Kobe the way he defended him. And plus, one of the kids I used to work with, Olden Polynice, really helped him get to the NBA. And you know what Olden Polynice told me? He said, only thing I've ever asked for when I would train these players would be for them to mention, hey, yo, OP helped me get in shape. OP got me ready. He said they never do it. That was a conversation I had with Olden Polynice yesterday. But in basketball, this is what they did. When the NBA lockout happened in 2011, let me break it down how that happened. In 2007, 8, the NBA saw, because remember the wealthy, they see 10 years ahead. Me and you seeing day to day. They're looking at 10, 25 years ahead. They knew the NBA had a new contract negotiation coming up in 2016 with TV rights deals. And if the ownership splits stayed the same, at the time the players got 57% of the revenue share, the owners got 43% of the revenue share. And there was a soft cap to where it didn't penalize owners too much for going into the cap. So that meant plenty more players got to get paid. Lakers used to do it all the time, going over the cap. So what they did was they said, you know what? With this new TV contract coming up, if the players at the time, I think at the time the NBA TV deal was like for $4 billion. The new deal that came, it was like $6 billion TV deal. Look, I forgot what the previous, I think it was something like $6 billion. But when the 2016 TV rights deal came, they were projecting at the time for that deal to be 15 billion or above, 15 to 20 billion. The deal ended up being for 24 billion. So with the money the players are getting paid, with a 57% revenue share of a $6 billion contract, they saw, okay, this contract is about to triple, maybe quadruple in value. Let me tell you how that works out in player salary. Shaq got, you look at Shaq's contract, when Shaq got that 7 years, $120 million deal. Well, no, that's the previous deal, Mark. That's the previous contract. Let me get a contract that was going on at this time. Whose contract can I use? I think Kobe. Let's use Kobe's contract. Kobe's second contract with the Lakers, I think it was for like 4 years, $80 million. You put what the percentage that Kobe got of the contract into that following deal. That same 4-year, $80 million deal with the new TV contract would have been 4 years, $400 million. 4 years, 300, somewhere between 3 and 400 million for 4 years. That's what that $80 million deal Kobe got. Taking that same percentage revenue split and applied to the new contract with the new TV deal, you go from an $80 million deal to a $400 million deal. You take, so let's go today's terms. Steph Curry signed for what is Steph? Let's use Jaylen Brown. He signed for $304 million, 5 years, right? And we're looking at, okay, Jaylen Brown got $300 million for 5 years. This is rounded down $300 million for 4 years. We're celebrating that, right? Had Jaylen Brown signed that same deal under the previous pre-lockout revenue split, that same deal would have been close to $1 billion. So although we see $300 million deals, we have to understand that had the players been getting that same 57% revenue share and teams been able to go over the salary cap because it was a soft cap and there wasn't a one-to-one. Like right now, if you go over the salary cap, I think it's a 3-to-1 penalty. For every million you go over, you owe the league $3 million. Back then, it was a 1-to-1 penalty. So for every million you went over, you owe the league $1 million. And that money is split between the 30 teams after the season, so it ended up being not that big of a deal to go over cap. So between having a soft cap, you would have more players getting paid, and the bigger contracts wouldn't have been $300 million. They'd have been closer to $1 billion. So they created a fake lockout and locked the players out because they were thinking ahead and lowered the revenue split, put the hard cap on, and then came up with this thing called Supermax. That way only certain players can get that level of deal. And the rest of the players, if you look down the bench, Jackson Hayes just signed for $3 million. There's no way he should only be getting $3 million of this large revenue share. But because they tiered the salary structure, those last 7 players don't get paid. The top 2 get paid the most. The next 3 get paid a lot. The bottom 7 get not enough money to retire on. They did that to minimize the level of wealth sports can bring in. Oh, and players are not to classify. They're not allowed to classify themselves as a business. So they pay taxes on everything. They're employees, not a business. Forgot to add that. When their name generates money, everything about them is a business. Their name generates money. It generates revenue. It's a entity within itself. They're still not allowed to be a business. See, actors can be businesses. The stuff that white folks good at, golfers, they can be businesses. You play for the NBA, NFL, you can't be a business. You owe all the taxes. You owe all the taxes. It's set up that way. The league doesn't have to own their NIL. They created that. And you get paid on the 1st and 15th. So you get paid, your agent takes money, other people take money. Usually you come into the NBA in debt because there was a transition between college and the NBA. College, there's a 5-month period to where you're not getting paid. You got to pay for these flights to go around the country to work out. You got to pay for these training. You got to pay for your aid. You got to pay for this apartment in LA because most players, as soon as they're done with college, they all move to LA. Most of them move to LA. They got to pay this expensive ass rent to stay over in West Hollywood, Santa Monica, near the beach. And so when they come into the NBA, they owe a lot of that money back, but you're getting paid every other week. Oftentimes, people come into the NBA and don't, before these NIL deals, you know, they were coming into the NBA in debt. No, they cannot trademark their name and become a corporation. They could do that outside of their NBA paycheck, but it won't work for anything NBA related. The NBA owns that. They can't do it. Let's go to the next level of it. These are markers and systems that are put in place. Trump just limited NIL. He didn't do it yet, but they're saying he's going to come in and sign an executive order to limit NIL money. Now that players can get paid in high school and college, and of course it's Black Americans by far that get the most NIL deals. Now they're putting a cap on how much money high school and college players can make on NIL. Why is it that black money is capped? No, NBA players cannot necessarily retire on one contract if they don't throw away the money. That's so not true. If you're one of the exceptional players and you get $100 million, yeah, maybe, but that's very few players get that. See, that's the thing. In the NBA, it's going to be somewhere between 30 to 40 players that make those really huge $100 million contracts, 50 players, 60 players that make. The rest of those guys are going to make $1 million here and $1 million there. That's taxed. They're going to sign. Jackson Hayes got signed for $3 million. That means he's about to see about 1.3 of that after taxes and paying everybody that helped him get that deal and contracts and obligations and shit. He'll see $3 million of that paid out every other week. He can't retire off that. You see, people look at Steph Curry signed for $300 million and think that, oh, man, those NBA players. No, Steph got $300 million. I'm going to tell you how crazy the dynamics are. I had a person I knew that played for the Clippers back in the day. And they were getting a minimum deal. At the time, minimum was like $1.2 million. So me and you would see $1.2 million, that's a lot of money. In that same locker room, Blake Griffin, Lamar Odom was getting like 5. DeAndre Jordan was getting like 8. Blake was getting 14. And Chris Paul was getting 20. So Chris Paul gets paid every other week. Chris Paul's paycheck, one paycheck, 2 paychecks in 1 month. By the beginning of October, because NBA players start getting paid, September 15th is the first paycheck. It may have changed now that things are starting earlier, but back then it was September 15th. You get that September 15th check, you get that October 1st check. Chris Paul has already made more money in those 2 checks than the players on his team are going to make the whole season. That's how much of a disparity. And the person that got paid the one, they didn't blow their money. They were very good with their money, too. Very good with his money. Very good. But that's not enough to retire on in a world of $5 a gallon gas. It's not. And that's the case with 60 to 70% of NBA players. Only a handful get that money where it's like, okay, they straight. Only a handful. The rest of them, they're gonna make some good money for a couple years. They may play around the world for a lot less until they're 32, 33. And then you got the rest of your life to live. And on top of that, why would you, it's a lot to expect a 22-year-old with time and women at his beck and call to be physically responsible. 98% of people within the sound of my voice would not be physically responsible with that level of access as a 21-year-old. You might wisen up by the time you're 25, 26, but by then, you better hope you get another contract. Because if you don't get another contract, point seen, money gone. It sounds good talking this hot shit, playing ahead when you 30 and 40 and 50. When you 19? Let's be real. Let's be real. I knew all about planning ahead. I started investing in the stock market when I was 14. I'll tell you one thing. When I got that first 5-figure check from one deal, and I was only 20, 21, man, that shit was gone. And I knew all of it. I already had money. I had already had money in the stock market. I was like, yeah, I'll put money in the stock market on the next one. Let me put these 24s on this F-150. I made that decision. Yeah, 21. Let's do it, nigga. Yeah. Nah, I want to blacken out these tail lights. Yeah, that's all. Then once I blacken out these, I'm gonna put a sound system in. I put the rest, put money away. Put a sound system in. Nah, I want to go to Miami for the weekend. I put some money away after that. Go to Miami for the weekend. Yeah, man, let's go to Laurie's Steakhouse. Yeah. I put some money in after that. Let's be real. 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 Yeah, you learn this shit. We understand this now because we went through it. A 19-year-old ain't been through it. 22-year-old ain't been through it. They got to go through it. And when it comes down to 80%, 85% of the people that make the NBA, they won't get that next contract. Go look at the draft now. Most of them cats didn't get that next contract. Or they got that next contract and they thought it was going to be for $20 million and it ended up being for $2 million. You dig? Hold on. That happened with a lot of people. That happened with a lot of people. So, most people, I should say. What up? In the back, right here.
Oh, I just wanted to know what are your plans for the day.
I'm gonna go. I'm live for like 10 more minutes.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, give me like 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Wife want to know what's going on. So, Jackson Hayes did not make $27 million in his career. He probably made 10. People always like talking about what they shut up. You ain't been there. I used to talk like that too. And then you look at what they do, the environment. One night I was in a club, and these cats had magnums. Patron, it was like 5 Patron magnums. It was like 6 Grey Goose magnums, Hennessy magnum. I looked at the bill. The bill was like 46 grand for the night. I'm like, God damn. Taxes in every state, in every city. The system is made to milk you, and that's just the voluntary stuff. Then they get these financial experts. Your team tell you, hey, go with this tax firm. That tax firm is charging you $5,000 a month. You making $27,000 a month. You making maybe $50,000 a month, clearing $35,000 a month, and you paying the tax man $5,000 a month. But that's who your agent told you need to be with, or you can get in tax trouble. You're 19. You don't know no better. People flat out stealing. They be stealing from these athletes. KG had like 60 million taken from him. They be flat out stealing from these niggas too. These niggas be getting stolen from. For real, for real. There's so many vultures in that world. That's why I'm back in that world now. I'm back in that world working with potential NFL players to help them out with what they're about to be seeing. It's bad. They get stolen from, bro. It's a system of stealing. And it be people referred to you by people you're supposed to trust. People that have been around you since you was 14. Because mind you, these vultures start coming around these kids the minute they become blue chip prospects. So these kids, some of these cats, you see him as a 25-year-old NBA guy, and you be like, man, he's stupid. Yeah, that person that stole from him, though, been around him since he was 14. Bought his mom a car. You know, as soon as he turned 21, sent him on a trip to Vegas, paid for the whole thing. And then that nigga look up, he down 25 million. But it was from somebody who been in his life since he was 15. People, y'all really don't know what the fuck y'all be talking about when y'all be judging these niggas. It's a system of stealing around these guys too. It's not about comparing you to them. You ain't got what they got around them. Ain't nobody give a fuck about you. You a janitor. Nobody cares. Go live your life. No disrespect to janitors. But if you one of them, you're just in an environment of filth. You're in an environment of filth. It's dirty. Same deal with entertainers and music. It's dirty. In music, you gotta understand, warriors for life, oftentimes the person that's telling them to do something with their money is somebody that, if I dare I say it, they wear a hat of a certain size and they're of a certain color generally, that they've been trusting. And this is oftentimes the first rich person this kid's ever met in their life. Ain't nobody rich in their life. So they trusting the dude that's the only dude that they've been knowing rich since he was, not the only, but this guy's been in my life since I was 15. He got a lot of money. Why wouldn't I listen to him? Did they invest with him? And that money's gone. Imagine you living in a lifestyle that your family don't make that much money, and here come this dude that's coming around your basketball team, and he has a lot of money. He's always paying for the team pizza, and he bought the team some shoes, and he's always giving you $100, $200 handshakes, and you know what I mean? He drives up in this Mercedes, and you know, he's white. Black people are automatically trained to believe that if you're white, you're right. You know, he has a nice house in Manhattan Beach, and he lives a life you dream of. And he's been in your life since he was 15. So now you're making your money. You're gonna put your money with him. You're now 20, 21 years old. You made the NBA, made the NFL. 21 years old. Who are you gonna trust most to put your money with? This new financial investor you met, who's legit, but you just met him, or this guy that's been in your life since he was 15. This is life. You're right, Red Six. That's exactly why they don't like players with fathers around. Players with fathers around, all that shit. Kobe, his father was around. Still shit on him. They had to kill Michael Jordan's daddy, but Jordan's father was around. They don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want that. Because when players don't have their fathers around, they ended up getting involved in with these thugs, money hungry thugs. You got a father around, you get past all this. You get an active father around and get past all this. Not saying mothers can't do it, but it's the way that these coaches and vultures step in. They know exactly where to feel because the mother's already overwhelmed. She got 3 other kids. So now for the mothers, she gets to raise the rest of her kids properly because this one is going to have a way to basketball practice. She ain't got to worry about taking him to practice and this and that. They're going to pay for it. They're going to slide her a little bit of money. It solves a problem for her. Yeah, Ja Morant, yeah. Kyrie Irving. They shit on players with fathers around. Yeah, it's grooming. These are all factors. Not saying there's any one reason why, because at the end of the day, most athletes still do well for themselves in retirement. Most athletes are not begging for money. Most athletes, some are doing down bad, but most athletes, when they retire, they, for the most part, hold on to their money. Yeah, the Barr brothers, my in-laws. No, I can't say that about Ja Morant's father. They got their own, play this. If Ja Morant's father wasn't effective, they wouldn't be shitting on him. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, black folks got no dirty goods. And so, yeah, they gotta know that. And the same with music. There's a book called Rhythm and Business. In that book, Rhythm and Business, it really details how the music industry was built on stealing from black artists, using the wealth that's generated from black artists to fund white music through basically stealing from black artists. Yeah. Ja Morant's father is great, if you ask me. Ja Morant has not broken any laws. Can we name one law that Ja Morant broke? Does he do young dumb nigga shit? Yeah. But is he a criminal? Is Ja Morant a criminal? Chat room, please answer me because I could be wrong. Can anybody give me a law that Ja Morant broke? No laws. So Ja Morant's father did his job. His son's a law-abiding citizen with a great career. What else do you want as a father? Yeah, Ja Morant is just a reflection of society. He acts like a YN, but how many people do you see acting like YNs out there? Yeah, if he's white, he's just young and free. If he's white, he's just young and free. Ja Morant acts like a YN, but he's not an actual YN. That's society right there. He just acts like a YN. He ain't a YN. He's a successful professional that does some YN shit in bad taste. He's not Ryan Lochte. He's not Ryan Lochte. But the same thing in music. Look, why is it always the black artist gotta know everything? White artists get stolen from too, but it's a different kind of level of stealing. You go look at the Laurel Canyon scene, all these white artists came out of here. They moved to LA and moved to an exclusive side of LA, and they built the Whiskey, a Go-Go, and the Roxy just so these young artists could thrive. There was a whole environment created for white artists like Joni Mitchell to survive. Systems created to push them to the front of the line. White groups, if they have a good 3-year run like Coldplay, they get to tour stadiums the rest of their life. They ain't gotta they can make 2 or 3 good albums, suck forever, but they got paid during that time and they get to tour. Versus every black artist, you have black artists like Angie Stone, who had a damn 40-year-long run in music, but still had to tour. Every nigga ain't that stupid. I'm down with Shaq saying he'll punch RG3 in the face. He should. I found most of my family history through obituaries. Plugging obituaries information into Ancestry, and that's how I found more. But every black artist ain't that dumb. We're stolen from. And when they figure it out, like Sam Cooke, when they figure it out like James Brown, when they figure it out, they get stolen from. Either killed off by like Sam Cooke or stolen from like James Brown and George Clinton. And unfortunately, to help with the stealing, they put a black person's face on front of it. With Chess Records, it was Willie Dixon. Got credit for co-writing a lot of Muddy Waters songs when Muddy Waters couldn't even read. Wasn't nobody gonna help write a song for Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters wrote his own goddamn songs. You had Willie Dixon back in the 60s, according to Bobby Rush, on my interview with him. And you have Jay-Z today. They've been having Jay-Z's in the business now for 60 years. He ain't start with that nigga. That's why it's so easy for me to point people like Jay-Z and Puffy out. Because cats like that have always been around. They use your own to help undercut you. Yeah, black artists get signed through a manager and or attorney. Yep, oftentimes not directly through a label that's doing nothing for them. But yeah, it's a whole. We could talk about this forever, man. But I gotta get up out of here. We'll probably talk about it again. Just understand that everybody ain't stupid. There's a lot about these things that are bigger than me and you, bigger than who we see. All right. I'll holler at y'all. Happy birthday, George Clinton.